Look at you.
What?
You're like the cat. You're just like the cat does this, and its butt wiggles just before it strikes. That was you. Like as I'm hitting record, you're like.
I'm waiting for you to say whatever it is you're gonna say that makes me think of whatever I'm gonna say to make fun of you.
Okay. I had shit earlier, but.
Hold on. So sometimes you show up and you're dressed like you're going to church.
Uh-huh.
Today you showed up.
Corona times. It's half of Bruce Lee under a back brace.
Under a back brace. Yeah, thanks for putting your effort into.
I figured Beckemeyer doesn't give a shit, so why should I?
Do you see me walking around with my undergarments on the outside?
We switched. Because I'm usually collar man, and you're t-shirt man.
Yeah, but this ties in because it's black. I try to wear black.
Okay. With the dog hair all over.
Yeah, good dog. Well, I have a dog and a cat, so.
Yeah, thanks for the cat. Didn't ask for that.
I have never liked cats. I don't know why I suddenly wanted one. I did.
Yeah. You know, and you asked me if it was okay, but it's like, that's one of those things like, do I have a choice? Really?
Well, I said, I'm thinking about getting a cat. I'm going to run it by you because...
Maybe I'm allergic.
No, because you're going to be stuck being around the cat more than you want to.
Yes.
I would say that you look like you haven't left the house in days, but that's just what you look like. That's just what you look like.
And I've always I'm always, yeah.
Look how pale you are. You haven't been outside in days, and you're like, yeah. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
I've been getting, I don't know, acupuncture and cupping.
Cupping just sounds filthy. Okay, here we go. Cupping sounds filthy to me. Cupping.
How many cups does he use? 2 guys and 4 cups? I think he had a lot on my back.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
It's film Corona Reverie, take 93?
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckemeyer.
And we started 5 minutes ago.
And the back-faced Bradley Kingston Balding Ewok.
Back brace Brad.
We have, Marty, I think that what is the 3rd time you've been on our show?
Yeah.
And I mean, every single time you get more and more famous because of coming on our show. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. I'm like, why would anyone come on our show thrice?
Wait, did we not start earlier because I did the intro? And then, so you're like, no. Mike has to do the intro because we could have used everything we did since I said, hey.
But we can't use this. So now I have to.
Fuck you! You are mind fucking me. Just start from when I started it and use it in the show.
No.
It's bad directing.
No.
This is brilliant filmmaking.
What it is bad co-hosting. You just interrupted the whole flow. Anyway, Marty Lang.
Here we go. There's a picture of him.
Is number one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Number 2, writer, director, filmmaker, educator at this point. He's got, did you say, is it a master's degree in screenwriting?
I do, yep.
So I'll let you give your own resume.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, I'm Marty Lang. I am an assistant professor of film at the University of Central Arkansas. I have a master's in screenwriting from Cal State Northridge, and I also have a master's in film production from Florida State University, which makes me the most overly educated person in the United States. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, producer, actor, editor, whatever, pretty much crowdfunder, you name it. Yep.
So that's what's happening now. Is like you're doing the, to jump right into it. You're teaching a class right now on crowdfunding, right?
Yeah.
Is that your only class, or is it just one of your classes that you're also teaching on top of everything else?
I wish this was my only class. This is definitely the most interesting of the classes I have this semester.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time crowdfunding has ever been taught in a semester-long class at a university.
Was it your idea, or did they say, "Hey, what's this crowdfunding thing?" And you're like, "I'll do that."
Not only was it my idea, it was part of the reason they hired me. When I came last year for my interview, that was part of what I pitched, and I said, nobody's ever done this before, and a lot of people are interested in doing it, but they don't know how. And I think, I'm one of the few people who has done it and who is also academically qualified to work as a professor. So I thought, well, maybe we can combine the two and see how it works. And amazingly, they went for it, and now we're doing it.
How far along did it start in January, or did it start this past?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we started the class in January. It's a spring semester class.
Yeah.
And even despite the pandemic, we're still finishing the class up online for the rest of this month.
Yeah.
So that was one of the nice things. Like, since it's an online-based thing, we didn't have to worry about canceling anything,
Right.
moving classes online.
But you still, one of the easiest, I don't say easiest, one of the best ways to teach people is practical, hands-on application. That's why when where I teach, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
we like, I try to get my students hands on the equipment, the editing every day, so that's like, you write, shoot, edit, screw it up, go do it again, over and over and over and over again. But you are crowdfunding your own feature film as a class project inside of the thing. So first of all, every filmmaker listening to this wants to punch you in the face right now, I'm sure, because you get to you like, that's what every crowdfunding filmmaker needs, is a team of people doing this stuff, because one person, one and a half people can't be spread, can't do it. You know what I mean? So you've got, like, how big is your class?
17 students.
So you got like an army of 17 people sending emails, all that stuff that you're supposed to do.
But also, if it fails, then
it's the students' fault.
If you couldn't, you couldn't do it with 17 kids, and
no. Yeah, that just proves how useless a crowdfunder I am if I can't do it with this many people.
Right. So talk about how you came onto that, and was that like, just how did the college respond to it at first and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, when I came for my interview, it was March of last year, and it was basically, like a day and a half where I met with the faculty, and, they were talking about what they were looking for a new faculty member and the stuff that they wanted to teach, and a lot of those classes were producing-related classes. They didn't have anybody who was experienced in that area of filmmaking, and that's something, I've been around for a while. I've produced 30 projects, so I know how to do that.
Jesus, I didn't know it was 30.
Yeah, but a lot of them are so
short film, feature film, it's still like 30. That's pretty big, pretty long resume.
Yeah. But that sort of opened up the conversation to, okay, I know how to do the producing stuff, but there's also this other thing, that I really think students need to know about. And a lot of the faculty members knew about it, were familiar with it, had heard about Kickstarter, had backed a project from a former student, kind of thing. Yeah. And it really wasn't that hard of a sell, to be completely honest. And that's to the great credit of the university. They understood, how important this kind of education is. So once I came on board, I started teaching in the fall, and I started thinking about the course like around November. We made the decision that Stay With Me was going to be the project that we were going to try to crowdfund and sort of build into the class. And what we've done is we've sort of incorporated the prep of the campaign into the classroom. So I have everybody watch the current cut of the movie. I can tell you about half the class didn't like it, which is totally fine, and that's part of what I told them.
Yeah.
This is not a class in which you're going to try to make something that you love and then try to get the world to follow it. It's you're a member of the team that's going to be trying to raise money and raise awareness for a project that may not be your favorite thing. But the hope is that they'll learn enough about the process that when they decide that they want to do it for something that they do love, they'll have all the tools that they need to actually go out and do it.
Probably.
I just have a question. Did he say it's called Stay With Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't you hear the whole conversation I had with him about my
right?
film?
But I thought you were just talking about your film.
Uh-huh.
And then I was thinking, well, couldn't you rewrite it to just say, to be Stay In With Me, to go off the Corona
There
thing?
you go.
No, not for me.
But also,
even though my film does take place almost completely in one room.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Stay in.
But I also, how does the coronavirus change? I mean, are you a little more anxious about crowdfunding in Corona times?
Yes, because I was going to ask you about that, but you had to make a decision because you just launched a couple days ago. At the time of this recording, you just launched a couple days ago, 3 weeks into the thing.
Yeah.
It was a decision that we didn't come to quickly. We had originally thought, April 1st would be the date that we would launch, and we'd have the month of March to kind of prep for it and let people know about it, which we started to do. But as we went through March, we noticed that the engagement with all the social media posts that we were putting up was just dropping drastically.
Yeah.
And for obvious reasons. So, it took a couple of conversations. Like I talked with the other producers on the film. I talked with the students. And ultimately, I came to the decision that we needed to still run the campaign, if for no other reason than to give the students the opportunity to still go through the machinations of that campaign and see what it's like. So even if we fail, there's still positive that will come out of it. It's kind of, I don't think it's fatalistic, but I mean, it's still, we're going into this knowing that it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
But there's still something that can come from it.
Well, I think teaching filmmakers how to do things like crowdfund is like the equivalent of teaching an elementary school student or a high school student how to balance like their bank account, because it's one of those life skills as a filmmaker, knowing how to raise your own money or have tap into your own resources or beyond your own resources to raise money is really kind of, filmmaking is like Brad and I sitting here in Orlando, Florida, maybe even you sitting there in Arkansas. I can't sit around and wait for the Hollywood break. I want to make more movies than I have time to wait on that thing to happen. So we have to figure out how to make our own films. And by the way, it's like starting a small business anyway.
Every time.
You start your thing, you resources, you make it,
logos,
you put
titles,
it out.
research.
Yeah, and the marketing savvy, I guess, required is not something that I was good at when I started doing this. I still don't even consider myself very good at it.
I hate the whole part. It's like my worst fears. Getting money.
My worst fear is doing a crowdfund with you. So okay.
We've already
because you've gone on the record over and over and over again about how much you hate it. So now we're gonna do a crowdfund. Hey, I'm going with Brad. Doesn't he hate it?
I understand it more.
He's an actor,
I'm better now.
Huh?
He's an actor though.
So what? So that's what you're giving them is like a class, and I think it probably even works better that if they don't love the project, because they can really like what. For us or you or me, and it's like when it's a passion project, you'll do anything for it. You'll do good, but if you're approaching it like a job, you can be more logical about the choices you make and the decisions you make on a thing. So hopefully that helps.
Oh yeah. That's something. It's something that we've talked about in class. Is just the ability to be objective. Because they haven't been through the process of making it. They don't watch every cut of the movie and immediately remember how this one guy was, had his boom in the shot for every other take but that one that we used, as we were watching it, as we've all done.
Yeah.
That objectivity is good. And yes, treating it like a job. I've never phrased it that way, but that's exactly what it is. So each week of the campaign, starting on Monday, our class is broken up into 4 different groups. One group is going to be handling public relations. So they're going to be reaching out to local press outlets to try to drum up press about the campaign. One group's doing outreach. They're going to be reaching out to organizations, nonprofits, educational ones, historical ones, whatever, issue-oriented stuff. We have a group doing video production. So every week, all the video updates are going to have videos that those students make. And then we have a social media analytics team every week who's going to be testing messaging to see which is the most effective way to get people involved and engaged. So they're not doing things that are financially related to the campaign. They're not trying to raise money, but they're doing the things that need to be done over the course of the campaign. So I think it's sort of a nice mix of, okay, it's objective, it's work, it's still work that you have to do, but it's not work that's so intrinsically tied to the campaign that if it fails, they take any responsibility for it. The first thing I said to them right off the bat was, you are not responsible for raising $1 of what we're going to do, but I still want you to be a part of it. So I think we kind of found a good medium ground on that.
Do you... Hey, Emma.
Yeah, Emma.
Do you... So, when you're crowdfunding, there's that statistic that, was it less than 1% of the people you get your thing in front of? Like if you get in front of 1,000 people, like 1% of those people are actually going to take action with it. What are you doing about that? Are you using like Facebook boosting posts and sharing things? You know how you can like beat the Facebook algorithm sort of in a way and all that stuff?
You beat it by paying them.
Right.
I actually tried that today for the first time. I had a credit for Facebook ads, so I used an ad from my Rising Star campaign, the last feature that I made. We had 1,300 people on a Facebook page for that, so I tried sending out a targeted post to them to see if they'd be more interested in becoming engaged that way. I've also done direct email. The engagement leading up to the campaign fell in line with those numbers. We had about 2 to 4% engagement leading up to the campaign before we launched. So I don't have enough data yet to figure out how we're doing since we started, but those numbers are about right.
Yeah. Isn't it weird when you do a crowdfund from again and you have to go back to the group of people that helped you that time before, and it's maybe been a while since you've spoken to them, and you kind of feel like, well, here's some people that used to, have you been good at like keeping in touch with your Rising Star, your first film group? So we were for a while. We finished the film in 2012, and we kept updating the campaign, I think, until 2014. So up until then, we were good, and then I dropped off the face of the earth for 5 years. So it's been a challenge. I mean, some people haven't gotten back to me who were big backers of Rising Star. Other people who didn't give money at all have already contacted me and said, I'd love to help out. So that's great.
Yeah, you get both sides of that, I think.
So if that's true, if you are trying to raise like even a significant, I think you're trying to raise, what is it, $14,000?
$14,000, yeah.
14. So if you're using that statistic, you have to get it in front of like 140,000 people or even more than that. Have you you've done the math? Yeah. So what is your trick? Like, you're the teacher of the class. Teach us what to do.
Tell us how to cheat.
Tell us how to pass the class. Yeah.
It's really it's not a cheat so much as it is knowing where your networks are. One of the things I did over the last couple of years, I knew that eventually I would be doing something like this in the classroom. I didn't know where, I didn't know for what project, but I knew that eventually I would want to try to use this as an educational thing. So what I started doing was I started volunteering as a crowdfunding advisor for other films. And when I was working at Chapman University, there were a couple students who made features when they got out of school.
Yeah.
One of them I worked as a crowdfunding advisor for. One of them I actually produced with them, and that's going to be coming out next year. But one of the main goals of doing that work, and I never got paid for any of it, but the reason I did it was because I knew they were going to be building their own audiences that I would then be able to access later on. So for the film that I was an advisor on, it was a film called Like Love. It filmed in Boise, Idaho. They just finished. They had their world premiere about a month ago.
Huh.
They have 500 people related to their campaign.
Yeah.
So once we started the campaign, I sent a letter to the writer-producer and lead actress, and I said, "Hey, Lily, you know, would it be possible for me to get the word out about my film to your people?" She wrote back, within a couple hours. She said, "Absolutely, I'll send out an update tomorrow," and then she backed the movie. So it's like, that help that you give comes back to you. And that, I think, is a big thing to remember, when you're working in this world.
So we didn't ever ask you what your movie's about. Give us the movie pitch. Like, what's it about?
So Stay With Me is a story about a woman in her mid-20s who has bipolar disorder. Mm-hmm. And the story is half about her struggle with the illness, and it's half about her best friend and her new boyfriend struggling to help her with the illness. Mm-hmm. It's not really a traditional sort of lead character-oriented thing. It's definitely an ensemble piece. Mm-hmm. The three characters all have equal screen time. The story's told non-linearly, and it kind of a meditation on grief, and it's a story that tells the importance of mental health advocacy, and how important it is, for people to be there for for those that are close to them in their lives that are struggling with mental illness. And I think the fact that we're in the days that we're in now, strangely, I think this is a topic that I think will be very relevant, for a lot of folks. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of the film.
So you shot it already?
Yep, we shot it last summer in Los Angeles.
And you're in post-production?
We are. Yep.
Yeah. So so how did you shoestring budget your production, and you're just trying to get post-production paid for? Or did you do a crowdfund before? No. Or did you have financing before somehow?
We didn't do a crowdfund before. What we had was, we had three people: myself, the co-writer producer, his name is Adam Mayman, and another friend of mine who I worked with at Chapman. The three of us each put up $3,000 of our own money, and that was what we shot it with.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I've done that before.
I'm curious if you're okay with it. Can we pretend that I'm a student, and can you pitch to me what I would get out of your program, crowdfunding? Like, I just want to know, like, what do you teach, and I guess. Yeah. Like, try to pretend I'm a student and pitch me if you can.
So let's assume that I need you in my class to make the minimum number for the class to happen.
Yeah.
So you're crowdfunding the crowd, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a minimum amount of students to get your
to
job.
Get the class. Yeah. Thankfully, we went far past that this year.
Yeah.
So Brad, if you're a film student here at UCA, and if you're interested in working on any kind of films of your own after you get out of school, I think the producing and crowdfunding class that I'm teaching this semester would be really good for you. What we're going to do, we're going to go through the entire process of crowdfunding a feature film, a film that I made, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you actually how to build an audience. We're going to talk about general marketing principles. We're going to talk about public relations principles. We're going to talk about crowdfunding and how it's been done online for the last 10 years. There's a couple really powerful examples, both good and bad, of crowdfunding that we'll review. We'll have you working as part of a group to analyze a crowdfunding campaign, and then you'll actually analyze another one on your own. As class assignments that'll factor into those two projects. Will be about half of your grade, and then the other half of the grade is going to be work that you do on an actual campaign. We're going to have you doing PR work, outreach work, social media work, analytics, video production, all those things that are necessary for a successful campaign. And when you get out, you're going to be part of the first class who's ever been taught this stuff in college.
Okay, I'm sold. Now, where do I go to get a grant?
Yeah.
I need a Pell Grant or something.
So you mentioned audience building.
Yeah.
What do you teach them to tell us what you teach them so that we know on building audiences. Like, we've talked to you about this before because you're exceptionally good at it. I think, like you said, talking about building the network and having the audience built. I think you have consistently, every time I've talked with you, grown that significantly each time out. And I feel like my audience for my films has continued to stay small. So what do you teach your kids, your students, I guess, not kids, about how to do that?
Well, definitely not kids. I have one student who's 52, so that's cool.
That's cool.
I think, the most important thing when it comes to audience building is that you think of it as something that you do all the time. A lot of folks, when they're getting into making a film, they think of things in terms of a small group, in terms of secrecy, in terms of keeping the plans to yourself. And I think that goes against the idea of building an audience, because every time you're working on something, you have an opportunity to bring people into your circle while you're doing it. I'll give you a perfect example. When we were making Rising Star, we used to do production meetings on public. We would never have production meetings in anybody's house. We would always go to either a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We had one particular Panera Bread restaurant that we used to go to all the time, and we would take over a table.
Mm-hmm.
And we would pull all our work out, and we'd start working, and we'd be there for 8, 9, 10 hours, and everybody at the restaurant loved us. And we had a sign that we put on the table when we got there, and the sign said, "Ask us about our new independent film." And then people would start coming up to us and asking questions.
Where were you when you made this?
This was Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah. Are people just nicer in Connecticut or something? Will that work in LA?
Well, I don't know if it will work in LA successfully. The fact that I'm here in Arkansas, I feel pretty confident that it would work well here. And as soon as the pandemic is over, I'm going to get right back to it.
I gotta tell you, that is the last thing I would want. It's like, leave me alone. I'm trying to do business, and then I gotta switch on. Hey, I'm a friendly, nice person. I don't mind being interrupted.
You don't mind being interrupted. It's funny because you interrupt all the time.
It was sarcasm.
You're being sarcastic about not wanting to be interrupted?
Yes.
You do want to be interrupted?
Now you're playing with me again.
No.
Go back to Marty.
When Brad wasn't involved in this part of it, but when I started working on my first feature film back in like 1999, asked me, has anyone seen the movie?
Has anyone seen the movie?
No, because we didn't finish it. But it was we all have that. It kind of fell apart. We worked on that thing diligently and hard, though. Like, it was the only thing that happened is we didn't get about 10% of the film shot because no money, no insurance, no budget. We couldn't land a couple of the locations we needed, and it took me so long to realize that wasn't going to happen that it wasn't. Anyway, so. But that's one of the things we did naturally is we wrote the thing. Like, I may go out in public and sit and work person anyway. Mm-hmm. We sat there and we worked, and we spent, I don't know, hours and hours at this one restaurant multiple times a week. Spent I could have financed all that money that I didn't have for insurance and stuff. I could have we could have just not spent that money at that place and financed the whole fucking movie. But we did. We had people. It took us a couple of a few weeks of showing up before the waiters started asking us, "What are you guys working on? What are you guys? You're here all the time." And we actually cast 2 of the people at the restaurant in our film.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Because still to this day. I mean, this was holy shit. That was almost 20 years ago. I just got an invite to one of their weddings. Just it's one of those things, and we just all came from sitting at the Miller's Ale House in Pine Hills, Florida.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's like visibility. It doesn't seem like one of those things that you would think, oh, yeah, like anything's going to happen because people talk to us at a Starbucks. Like, people talk to people at Starbucks all the time, but you never know.
Oh, you never know. Like, we had a couple of Kickstarter backers came from the people that we met at the Panera Bread, and they were quite literally the reason we got over our goal, So it's like, You never know what help you could ultimately get from.
Was it a little handmade sign, like written, ask us about our future, like home?
Oh yeah, literally like a piece of paper. Yeah, little piece of paper on like a little easel or whatever that you flip over, and it was just like, here, ask us about our movie, and it was leading up a cardboard box. Yeah,
that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. I'm gonna do that.
I feel like the kind of people that would read that and do it are the kind of people I don't want to talk to, because they're probably the talkative, annoying.
Yeah, but as you said, you don't want to talk to anybody.
It's like usually people that do that want to talk about themselves.
And sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. And we did get people who were all about, they were pitching us their movie ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. But I mean, that's part of the interesting process of this. You're obviously you filter those people out.
He's like the nicest guy.
I was just going to say, he's smiling, saying, every encounter is a pleasant, wonderful thing. It's like, no, well, I wish I could be Marty, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So no, believe me, there's days when somebody pooped in my Wheaties too, and I didn't have any interest in going out and stuff. So on those days, you just stay home.
Okay.
So how do you think it's going? How's your crowdfund? You've been at this point, what is it, 2 or 3 days, right? 3 days?
We're just over 2 days.
2 days, okay. Where are you at?
Well, let's find out. As of right now,
I think it's charming that he didn't know exactly. Like he wasn't like when I'm like every 30 seconds I'm checking.
Day. I always assumed second day in you're lucky to have like anything.
Yeah, that's you and me. He's Marty Lang.
Well, no, it's not me either. So right now we're at 17% fund.
What?
Yeah, we're trying to raise $14,000, and so far we've got 2,425.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you're supposed to hit 15% by the first, was it 3 days, 5 days?
No, it should be the goal is to hit 30% as fast.
Oh, 30%.
So according to that, we're actually a little behind.
Okay.
So wait, the audio cut out while 30%. You were talking.
He said 30% as fast as possible.
As fast as possible?
Mm-hmm. In the first 4 days.
2 to 4 days, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's possible that we can still get there. I'm not gonna stress out too much about trying to do it, given the situation and given the circumstances. But I think we're doing pretty good. We've got 35 supporters, and we've got 72 followers, and those are people that are signed up to get campaign updates that haven't given any money. The whole thing about Seed and Spark is that if you get certain benchmarks of followers, you get in-kind services to help you make your movie.
Yeah.
So like for us, if we hit 500 followers, then we get film festival submission waivers. The festivals all over the country.
Oh,
so that to me is every bit as valuable as a dollar contribution.
So if you don't hit your goal, do you still have access to that follower list?
So the way Seed and Spark works is you have to get the green light in order to get those benefits.
Right.
The green light comes at 80% of what you're trying to raise, not 100.
But you still have access to that group of followers. You could still message them. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I have a question. Do you get, if I'm your student helping you crowdfund, do I get extra credit for spam emailing all my friends and relatives and getting them to
That's not how you do it, Brad. It's not called spam.
if I give you like $20, do I get like, an A?
Well, it wouldn't hurt. No, I specifically told the students before we started, there is no profit motive, there is no financial motive for any of you guys doing this. They're sort of like an extra layer on top of the team that we already have. And the team that we've got in place, they're the ones that are handling all the financial stuff. So there was one student who actually donated $5, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I thanked him in front of the whole class. And then I told everybody else, you don't have to do that. Like, that's not a required thing.
As you had the piece of dust in your eye.
Yeah, it's, that's something that's something that was very important to me. One, because you don't want to be thought of as taking advantage of students, and two, working in Arkansas, there's a lot of working class students that are here, and a lot of them don't have those kinds of resources to put into something like this. So I don't want to I don't want to put pressure on anybody to think that they need to do that in order to be part of the project. So, and I think it's been successful so far.
So I felt really weird when we did our premiere of our casting crew, friends and family premiere of Totally Awkward, Really Pathetic and Totally Awkward, that I talked to my students about, and these are high school students who arguably shouldn't see the movie, if you're talking about ratings and stuff like that. But it was very touching that, I think about 17 of my students came to see it. They were the largest group of people there outside of casting crew. They were my students who, again, they were all underage. They may not, you read the script. It's not exactly something that, hey, 15-year-old kid, come watch this movie over here. But it was very touching, and it made me feel loved, at least by my students, at least by those 17 people. Everybody else can go fuck themselves, I guess. That's just a joke, Brad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't always get jokes. Sometimes he has to tell me.
But it would feel weird. It would have felt weird if we were running a crowdfund and those 17 kids gave money. It would feel even a little bit more. I would have had a harder time with it because it was a monetary thing. Even though all those students bought tickets to come to our thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, the ethics of teaching this stuff is something that's so new, and I think it's going to continue to evolve the more people who do it. I feel really fortunate that I'm one of the first, and sort of people will be able to work off of what I did or didn't do, and hopefully work from there. But it's something you need to be cognizant of. There was a crowdfunding campaign that a guy named Kevin Wilmot did a bunch of years ago. He's one of the guys that wrote Black Klansman with Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. He directed a film about Wilt Chamberlain, and young Wilt Chamberlain. It was a fictional feature, and he actually had his college students raise the money for him. And it wasn't part of a class. It was just sort of an independent study kind of thing where they went and did that. I don't know. I wouldn't have done it that way because it feels a little bit different in that construct because there's not an academic basis around it, other than, here, come work for me and help me raise money for this movie. Yeah. So, not to say that it's wrong because that happened, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and this is all so new. Everybody's trying to figure out how to get their head around it.
It's weird that it's still considered new. It just shows you how slow things really do move because I crowdfunded my first thing in 2010. That's 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Impasse, right?
Huh?
It was Impasse, wasn't it?
Well, Impasse was actually the second thing I crowdfunded. The first thing I crowdfunded was I raised $1,000, and it was I was worried that I wasn't going to raise the $500 I was asking for because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Yeah. For a short film I made called Gush, I made that about 6 months before we crowdfunded Impasse, and so we did significantly more money. I had the Jeannie Bowerman machine behind Impasse, but
it did part of the
it was
problem.
2010. It was 2010, and it's funny that people still consider it new. It's like podcasts. Everybody acts like podcasts are the new thing. No, podcasts. I had my first podcast in 2004
it's 20
or something.
Yeah, it's been 20 years almost that the podcasts have been around. Close to, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, and when you think about academia, one of the things I learned when I started teaching, a colleague told me something that's been very fresh in my mind as it relates to crowdfunding. Any new topic when it comes to film education usually takes about 10 years before it starts making its way into the academic classroom. Mm-hmm. And here we are, it's 2020.
Here we are, yeah.
10 years after Kickstarter sort of became ubiquitous, and...
You should be getting all sorts of press on being the first one and how you're crowdfunding a movie and
That could be part of the crowdfund
that
marketing.
could be part of the crowdfund.
It could.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some academic places that we're going to be letting know about it, once we get a little farther into it.
Yeah.
I want to be careful about that, because if for some reason we don't complete the campaign successfully, I don't know if
Oh.
that's what I want the world to know about. But
Oh.
I've got to think about that. But
Smart.
the educational part of it, I think, is something that people
Yeah.
will want.
Yeah.
And I know a friend of mine. You guys know Richard Botto from Stage 30.
Yeah. He's crowdsourcing.
Yep, he did it. His book is actually the book that we're using in class.
Nice.
And he did an event at USC a little while ago. It was an online event a week or two ago. And he told me that he had mentioned my name there, saying that I was teaching crowdfunding in a class, and apparently they got interested. I mean, that's the number one film school in the country. So I think we're a ways from actually getting to the point where the big schools are going to embrace it as an educational thing, because so few people know how to do it. But I think it'll get there.
Also, the idea behind a lot of I think the idea behind a lot of students going to film school is to go get a job in Hollywood, to be the grip guy, the camera guy, or whatever. But the model of filmmaking is so much more entrepreneurial these days, and we're so much more capable of really having our own little bubble of filmmaking. Like, you can write something, shoot something, edit something, post, get it out, and all on your own. You don't need anybody else. A lot of what's happening is, even for me, Brad and I were just talking about this yesterday, the resistance to put your own stuff out there is such an archaic idea, because of when I got into filmmaking, that wasn't even a thing. Like, the thing was movie theaters.
Yep.
That's it.
And the way you get to movie theaters is you get your film in Sundance, and then the distributor picks it up.
But these days, you have to really get, if you want to thrive or survive, or even get to keep making movies, you have to make something and put it out. Yep. Go make something and put it out and keep going. Because do you want to make movies, or do you want to have your ego stroked and have your thing in a theater? Like, that's one of the reasons we did our premiere in a theater, is because we wanted that experience. And it was great. It was nice. It was lovely. It was incredible. But part of it is so psychological. It's almost like imposter syndrome, like making you do things so that you feel legit, as opposed to, are you a storyteller? So, like, for filmmakers, if you want to make movies, this is how we do that these days. Like, it would be great if you make something and suddenly you're J.J. Abrams 2, and like everybody's like, he's the J.J. Abrams 2. Like, fine, you got promoted. But until then, I just want to make movies. Yeah. So that is the shit that I need to learn, or want to learn, because that can help me do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to take Marty's course.
You have it online.
Or do you?
Yeah. He's only online.
So right now,
how do I do it? I need it.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. Well, shoot, I could talk to the school and see if they want to do an online version of it, like either in the fall or next spring or something.
We can help raise money for our movie next time, not yours though.
Okay, I'm saying.
I'll only take the class if you're gonna.
But the thing is, Corona's gonna come back next year.
So we'll go back online again. Yeah.
So it should be ready. I would pitch that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny though, Mike. You mentioned having your film be the film to get crowdfunded the next time we do it. Yeah. What I want to do, I obviously want to teach this class as much as I can. Yeah. But I keep making movies that will get crowdfunded.
Right. It takes too long. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, what I'm hoping, is that this class will become sort of like the main place for Arkansas-related filmmakers to come in. Like, if they're making a project and they want to be involved in a class, I can sign a contract with them, and okay, you're required to come to this many classes. You're required to show the current cut of the movie, and really be involved in the class. So I can take a step back and not be the one actually doing all the work during the campaign and teaching. I can be the person who can teach the class, teach the filmmakers, and hopefully make it sort of like like, like a collaborative kind of thing,
Yeah.
where we all go through the process of working on this project, and at the end of that semester, the local film scene now has a new project that's been aided by the University of Central Arkansas in the crowdfunding class. So hopefully that can become like a catalyst for a lot of filmmakers to make stuff.
That's another thing that Marty Lang does really well. Like your story of how you got your Rising Star film made, you crowdfunded or whatever and all that stuff, but you also tapped into your students as crew members, and you took it upon yourself to basically educate the people that were wanting to work with you, tap into their enthusiasm for making a movie, and taught them how to do things so that you could then take your crew on the road. One of the hardest things for us when we're making a film is crew, because I'm a filmmaker. All my other filmmaker friends, they're filmmakers. They're making their own film. They're not necessarily like, they don't have time, and I'm honestly not inclined to bug them with my project, because I know if I need to return the favor one day, it's gonna be really hard for me to return the favor because I'm super busy too. So I have had students of mine graduate and end up like the guy who was DP for our film Really Pathetic and Totally Awkward, and four of our projects now was one of my first graduating students. He graduated. I'm like, okay, now that you're graduating, let's make something together.
Cool.
And over the summer, we cast a friend of mine now, but he was a student. He graduated around the same time as that guy. He's an actor. He was just about to move out to LA, and I'm like, okay, let's get together and make something real quick before you leave. And he was just a former student of mine. So that has worked a little bit, but not in the massive way that you seem to be able to cultivate like an educational process with the filmmaking process as you were doing the thing.
Well, I have to admit, for that, I got lucky, because any idea of making Rising Star came after I started working in that workforce development program. And it was once I started working in that I realized, oh, well, maybe I can train my own crew. And that's what that started after I had already been doing it.
Okay.
But I mean, there's all kinds of local educational opportunities for people to work in media. You can go to your local public access TV station. There's people that are working there that are learning camera and editing and stuff like that. And you can find people who are interested in doing that kind of work there. Any kind of media program at a high school, like you said, that's obviously your pipeline. But even locally, I mean, you can go to UCF. You can go to what's the community college there with the big program?
Valencia.
You can go there and talk with students there and get them involved. Like I have friends that teach at both of those schools, and they're constantly looking for opportunities for their students to work. So that's sort of a good opportunity to bridge that gap.
Weird that Marty Lang is going to be our line producer on our next film, because he knows all the people that live in our fucking city that we don't know. How does he do that, Brad?
Because he's Marty. He's the nicest producer in the world.
Because I've lived in a million places and I'm really old. That's how.
You're not older than me. I don't think you're older than me. When compare it, like on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. 46.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about the same age. Okay. I never would have thought you were in your 40s. I thought you were like 20, 30 something. And I was sitting around hating you because he's this young fucking guy. He gets everything he wants. He's done millions of things already. Yeah.
I think that about everybody, because nothing works for me.
You gotta remember though, for all the projects that I've worked on, and all that I've made and that I've helped make and stuff like that, the grand total of money that I've made working on all of those projects is still in the negative. So I just want to be clear.
Well, I mean, that's because you're a legit filmmaker.
I mean, literally, it's funny. We're talking about this. The reason I was able to come up with the money to shoot Stay With Me last summer was because I worked as a PA on a Netflix feature. So I spent just about 6 weeks working on a film called Horse Girl. It's on Netflix.
Oh shit! Yeah, not Brie Larson. It was
I
Allison
don't.
Brie.
huh?
Yeah,
Is it
Allison Brie.
Allison Brie. Allison Brie. I always get those names mixed up.
Yes.
She wrote it.
Well, I have
and
to see it now.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I meant to watch it.
I've seen the previews.
I was a production assistant, a truck driver, and a stand-in on that movie.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That's
that was
below the line, right?
It doesn't matter. He raised money for his own movie that way. Yeah.
That's how we did it. I made enough money to pay my rent that month and to fund my third of the film. So,
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's going to happen with your film? How it's a feature film?
It is.
And,
80 minutes long. Yep.
And you're.
What did he say?
How many? What'd you say?
80 minutes long.
80 minutes long.
Okay.
Which is a good length for an indie film. Take note, Brad. Ours was 91 minutes.
Okay.
And
we just added.
And it's 91 minutes
like
now.
A couple more minutes at the beginning.
It's just weird. We finished our film 2 years ago, but just last night we sat down and reworked the opening because something didn't, and we hadn't put it out yet, so it's like nobody knows.
We needed to give people a reason to stick around.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a slow burn, but the word slow burn and comedy don't always they don't always go. It builds. Like that's the way you say it. But anyway, okay. So so what's up next? Like how much do you have? Like 3 or 4 weeks left on your crowdfund.
Yeah, we have 28 days left of the crowdfunding campaign. And then right now we're on our second edit of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with an editor here in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
I actually met her. She's an alumni of the university I teach at.
Yeah.
And we're working on the edit now. We'll probably have it done, I would say, maybe in June. And then once we get into sound design, there's a guy working in Los Angeles who was actually one of the sound guys that worked on Rising Star. And now he lives in LA, and he's a sound designer there. He does a bunch of stuff. So he's going to be doing our sound editing and our sound mixing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a composer who's already working on it now, and he's done some beautiful stuff. So we're slowly coming together. I think if we're able to complete the crowdfund successfully, I think it's safe to say that we'll have the film done by the first of the year. I think
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about... So just for the record, we've had crowdfunding. He didn't call himself this, but he's the guru. He's like a crowdfunding guru. Yeah, he's a Kickstarter guy. He's called Justin Giddings. Yeah. What is how do those guys or guys like that who have like the I don't know, the magic touch on PR and marketing and stuff like that fit into your class? How are you teaching? Are you teaching kind of what they would do, or are you teaching core basics, principles, and then, or you can hire this guy
who's about curriculum?
You know what I mean? Because
we do talk about folks like him in the class, like crowdfunding consultants. I mean, I used to do that work when I was in Connecticut. I used to do that with startups, and used to talk with them about coming up with campaigns. It's a different strategy when you're talking about a collegiate film class.
Yeah.
For me, what I try to do is I try to show the skills that you're going to need in order to do this successfully, and I also want to show you how to use every day of your film career that starts from the day you finish this class to build an audience that you can port with you from film to film.
Yeah.
That's different than what Justin Giddings teaches.
Right.
It's no less valid. It's just different.
Yeah.
So, like, I think my class is more about using your local resources, crowdsourcing elements of your film beyond money, crowdsourcing locations if you're shooting a film in your hometown, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really thinking of your film as a community project. That's kind of the angle I'm taking in the class. So it's definitely different than what Justin might teach. Or the other crowdfunding consultants that you work with, where it's more sort of like a one project basis kind of thing.
Yeah. It's fascinating what they can do, though. Like any first of all, any crowdfund that ends successfully is a fascinating marvel of positive vibes or whatever. It's like you look at it and go, how the fuck did they do that? Like I've seen so many crowdfunds that weren't gonna make it in their last 24 hours, but in their last 24 hours raised like suddenly $12,000 to hit their goal and then cross over it. And it's sort of like, what happened in that last 24 hours that wasn't happening for 29 days earlier? You know what I mean? So it's always like this magical thing that seems really cool when it clicks. It's almost like you can't teach what it is that makes it click. You know what I mean? It just, everything you did finally clicked. Oh, that's what's supposed to happen, and it worked.
Yeah. Well, I think two things help that. I think, you know, the built-in deadline of a campaign is one thing that helps. You know, the other thing is just not being a douchebag. You know, like if you're a good person. Oh, that wasn't meant for anybody. Just, you know, the idea, the idea of being honest with your audience and being upfront with them, and, you know, not BSing anybody, and, you know, people can see that. You know, if you're honest, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. So it's amazing to me that crowdfunds are basically raised by $25 and $50 donations, and people get all the way to $50,000, $100,000 that way, and it really is a heartwarming thing. One of the most heartwarming things I ever felt was when somebody I didn't even know gave me money, or gave our film, you know, contributed to our film, and it's like, where did you come from? And it's like, and it's weird how a $5 donation will do the same thing. You know, somebody throws in and gives you $5 because you know that they know that $5 is not going to make or break the project, and you know it. But the fucking gesture of $5, like you, every now and then you get one of those and you look at it and you're like, I needed that bit of confidence, like that little the thing of support. Yeah. So hopefully that's what your students are seeing, and, you know, in that, like, when they see that stuff come in, that they feel that, as a filmmaker who's going out on the line for it, that's the sort of thing that keeps me from swearing off crowdfunds. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's an inspiration engine, you know, that when it comes to this kind of thing. We've already gotten campaign donations from film festivals already, and that that blew my mind. Like, I've never even heard of that before. Like, a festival in Mississippi was our first backer. They gave us $100. Holy shit!
So when I saw that, like, I immediately let the students know, and like, see this, guys? Like, 99 times out of 100, we're giving them money, but look at this, you know.
Right. So what happens when you submit that same film to them and they don't select you to be in their film festival? Do you get to, like, you guys?
I shrug and I walk away knowing that they help finance it. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Or you have $100 bill in front of the building and you flick them off and throw
Take
it
your
at
fucking
them.
money back, son of a bitch. No, that's the Tao of Marty Lang. I shrug and walk it off and go keep a positive outlook.
That's it. Do the next thing.
Yeah. So, okay. So if a filmmaker today, let's assume the coronavirus is not a working element in the thing, and they're getting ready to start their crowdfund, what is your, you know, what's the three, if you had 2 minutes with them, what would you tell them?
Well, okay, assuming coronavirus is not a thing, I would say, you know, try to figure out the absolute lowest amount of money that you can make your project for, and have that be the amount that you try to crowdfund, because that will make it the easiest for you, going through it for the first time. And then the other thing is to make sure that every person you've ever met in your life knows about the campaign before you start. Quite literally. Whether text message, email, whatever.
Oh my God, that's my favorite part.
And then, you know, just see where the chips fall. You know, now if COVID-19 is a factor, which it will be for the foreseeable future, that first rule still applies. You know, make it for the absolute minimum that you absolutely need to bare bones make it. But then the other part of it is understand that it's going to be a slog, because, you know, today is the first day that millions of people don't have health insurance, you know, because of layoffs that happened last month because of the pandemic. So understand that you're stepping into the most difficult time since the advent of online crowdfunding to try and crowdfund. know that it's going to be hard, but it's not impossible. You know, and try to get as big of a team as you can. And
it's already really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already really hard and time consuming.
We were gearing up to
do a small one because we have a horror film that we want to make, and we do need like a significant. It'll be the biggest budget I've ever worked with times 4.
Okay.
So, $60,000-$70,000 budget, and we were gonna make a short film, like proof of concept short film, that we were also gonna crowdfund, so that it could have the right, so that because we want it to look right. It's a horror film, so it needs to be a lot more polished than our Talking Heads comedy that we made. And I swear to God, I was almost relieved when I'm like, wow, I don't think we should crowdfund. And I was like, oh God, that's a load off. Yeah. And I talked to Brad. I was like, I don't think we should do it. He's like, yeah, we shouldn't do it. We were so easily talked out of it, I
remember texting you saying, anyway, you're talking like you gave me the idea. I texted you first. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm being stupid.
Well, whatever the conversation was, I don't remember taking credit for anything in that thing we just said.
But we did. It's like it was happening, and we were like, should we even do this? And I felt I was resistant to bring that to you because you are very like, once you make a decision on it, you don't want to do it. So I was surprised when you were like,
I don't think. I was relieved because I know how much work goes into one. Even a little, $1,500 one, which is the one we were trying to do for our short film, because it's really small. It's like a couple of actors and a camera guy. So it's small. We just wanted to look right. And
do we just give up, or
don't give up? What the fuck is that? Those words don't exist.
We're just gonna make it without a crowdfund.
No, we wait.
Okay.
But that was no, I think it was Justin Giddings' advice. Is like, my advice is if you're getting ready to start a crowdfund, don't do it right now, is what I think he said. And then he said, unless you absolutely have to or feel strongly that you can make it work, otherwise you don't need the extra pressure of trying to make it work in a time where it's one of those like frivolous extra things that people aren't really looking for to help out with.
Now that's interesting you say that, because one of the things that we're trying to use as messaging is that the arts need to be supported, especially in times like these.
That's true.
If you're going to spend $13 a month on Netflix, you're getting a month's worth of content for that. Like we're asking for the same thing.
Yes.
So it's you can make that argument that it's just as vital now.
You totally could.
So.
But you're right. So many people I know so many people. One of the deciding factors for me was I just instantly, right away, knew so many people that were out of work because they're either actors or performers in some way that were freelance based. And those people also work at places like restaurants and stuff like that. So they lost all of their work, not just like, I can't perform this month. It's now also their side gig, was also taken away. And it just, it felt extra scary, I guess. Yeah. So is that your advice? Make sure everybody knows before you start.
Yep, before you start, the longer before, the more lead up time you have to launch the campaign, the better. I mean, we had a 5-month lead up for this campaign.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's still going to be, a slog. So granted, things are different now than they were 5 months ago, but that's what you have. That's what you got to do, to make sure that people know about it, because ultimately every person that you find is someone that you have to go out and find.
Yeah.
So the more time you can put into that work before you start, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. So where do people find you? Where do you want to send people to go catch your crowdfund?
Yeah, so we're crowdfunding on the website Seed and Spark, and if you go to seedandspark.com/fund, FUND, /stay with me, STAYWITHME. That's going to be our campaign page. We'd love to have you on board. Even if you can donate a few dollars, that'd be great. If you can follow us, that would be just as great. I'm on Twitter at Marty_Lang. And yeah, if you have any questions about crowdfunding and want to talk, I'm more than happy to chat with you, and hopefully we can convert you to a team member as a result.
A team member. That's what we love about Marty Lang. He's like, he really is, and I'm not just saying it because he's sitting here. He is like the nicest guy. He has never turned down a question, advice, favor anytime I've ever asked him, and he just is just one of those people. Even all the way back to, like, I remember when we did show you Impasse. I think Jeannie and I showed it to you before we showed anybody else. You had like incredibly kind words to say about it publicly. Like you just said, whatever you said. It was just, I just remember going, thank God somebody likes it, because we had just finished it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna like use that against him one day. I'm gonna be like, you're a member of the team, Marty.
Yeah.
You should,
yeah, Marty, you're on our team, man.
We need your help.
Well,
are you gonna help us? You're a team member.
Since I'm a member of your team, can I ask that you guys both follow the film and become members of mine?
Yeah. I think I already did. No, maybe I didn't because I wasn't logged into Seed and Spark when I looked at your thing. But yes, I intend to.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm following Marty's advice where I'm putting in my my chip now so I can call on it later.
It's best not to announce that, though.
Oh,
yeah. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a calculated. I mean, it might be calculated, but you don't just say, "Hey, I'm doing this because now one day I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna make you do the thing for me."
I guess that's why I need to take this class, because that's probably on the test. That don't announce ahead of time that you expect something in return.
One of the things I'll teach you: stealthy is a virtue. Yes.
Stealth is a virtue. All right. It's great talking to you. I wish you luck, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for having me.
All right. See you.
All right.
Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie. I think we finally ran out of things to talk about.
Do it, okay.
Did we run out of things to talk about? You know what it is.
Do the okay, everybody, quiet on the
Hold on, but you know what it is. I haven't been out of the house in like a week and a half or 2 weeks. There's nothing left to talk about.
It's the Corona intro.
There's no...
Lean back. Do all this.
There's nothing to talk about other than that.
Hey, everybody. This is the Corona intro. We can't leave the house. We're stuck. We're not obeying the 6 feet rules, but that's because we can't leave the house to get it. So, anyways, Film Reverie, and it's great because...
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.